Hello, I'm Dr. Julie Gralow, Chief Medical Officer at the American Society of Clinical Oncology and a breast medical oncologist and clinical trialist. In recognition of Breast Cancer Awareness Month, I'd like to speak for a couple of minutes on why clinical trials are important for patients with metastatic breast cancer and all patients with cancer. Enrolling in a clinical trial can be an important treatment option. For some, taking part in a clinical trial might be the best treatment choice. In collaboration with Friends of Cancer Research and the FDA, at ASCO, we're working to allow more people to participate in clinical trials by expanding who's eligible to enroll in those trials, so that we don't exclude people based on mild deviations in blood tests or kidney or liver function, based on their age, or the presence of well-controlled medical conditions, including treated brain mets. Diversity in clinical trials is needed to study and develop treatments that are effective in all people. Different people can have different responses to the same treatment based on age, race, ethnicity, ancestry, socioeconomic status, overall health, and gender. We're focusing on enhancing accrual to clinical trials in underrepresented populations. Those are typically left out of clinical trials. In collaboration with the Association of Community Cancer Centers, we at ASCO undertook a pilot project on enhancing racial and ethnic accrual to cancer clinical trials. We developed a site self-assessment tool so that sites could understand not just who they were enrolling in clinical trials, but who they were actually screening and who they were offering a trial to. We also developed an implicit bias training called Just Ask. You can't enroll in a trial if you're not asked. We know from studies that rates of clinical trial enrollment for those typically underrepresented in clinical trials, including racial, ethnic, and older populations, is comparable to younger white patients if a trial is actually offered. We're working on making participation in clinical trials easier for patients, what we call patient-centered or patient-centric trials. We can leverage technology using remote consent and telemedicine, and we can decentralize, meaning that we allow labs, radiology, and clinic visits to be closer to home. We need to make clinical trials more common sense or real world, so that the results will actually translate to what will happen when the drug is used in the real world. We need to remove unnecessary and excessive clinic visits, the very narrow time windows for these visits or labs, excessive labs and imaging, and we need to minimize data collected that is just not really applicable or necessary. We are working on making sure that toxicity and side effects that are evaluated in a study actually reflect the true impact on the patient. We're involving patient advocates early in the study design from the beginning, and we're including patient-reported outcomes, or PROs, in addition to the standard ways that we collect toxicity and side effects. And we're working on using what we learned from our experiences during the COVID-19 pandemic. In collaboration, again, with Friends of Cancer Research, we conducted and recently published a study of trial sponsor perspectives on the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic on cancer clinical trial protocols and data quality. So we knew during the pandemic that flexibilities were necessary to continue trials. The question was, did these flexibilities negatively impact the patients on those trials or the data integrity of the trials? So what we explored was we interviewed the study-sponsored, meaning industry or NCI clinical trials groups, and most of them reported that they made multiple modifications that allowed their trials to continue during the pandemic, including remote distribution of oral drugs, remote toxicity monitoring, and remote consenting. 80% of the respondents reported that the pandemic had minimal or no impact on overall data integrity of the study. The trial was able to be conducted in a much simpler, more patient-centric manner without disturbing the integrity of the study results. We need to work on keeping those flexibilities and making trials easier, both for the patient and the clinical site participating in the study. By participating in clinical trials, patients help advance new knowledge and treatments more rapidly and can help future patients and generations as well. People with cancer should have equal access to clinical trials, and everyone should be able to benefit from cancer clinical trial results. Thank you.